Meanwhile, our top story of the morning, Israel and Hamas declaring a ceasefire after 11 days of violence that claimed at least 200 lives. Earlier this month, Hamas fired rockets into Jerusalem following a clash between Israeli police and Palestinians. Israel, calling the rocket fire a red line, retaliated with its own missiles. Joining me right now is former Connecticut Senator, United Against Nuclear Iran Chairman Joe Lieberman. Senator, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for being here. Do you think this ceasefire sticks?
It looks like it should stick. Look, thank God it's over, because this was a conflict without a real reason except political. Hamas started it to get back at their enemies in the Palestinian Authority leadership, and because their sponsors in Iran wanted them to do it for many reasons. I think one of which was to try to stress both the Israeli ballistic missile defense system and the Israeli accords with the Arab countries, the so-called Abraham Accords. And I think Hamas failed in this, thanks to a very strong response from Israel, the effectiveness of the U.S.-Israeli Iron Dome ballistic missile system, and I think the quiet and effective diplomacy of President Biden, who was not drawn in by the left of the Democratic Party to essentially take a stand against Israel. This was Hamas and Iran's fault, not Israel's.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because, I mean, Hamas started this, and this barrage of missiles fired at Israel is actually coming from Tehran. We know that they're harboring terrorists. You say it's time to get tough on Iran, and yet all we've heard for the last couple of days is that it's Israel's fault. And, you know, the Biden administration wants a ceasefire from Israel. I mean, what are they missing that, you know, we continue to look at Israel for answers here when, in fact, it was Hamas that started all of this, and Israel has the right to defend itself?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think President Biden understood that, and he didn't yield to the pressure from the left of the Democratic Party to blame this on Israel. This was started by Hamas, urged on by Iran. It was apparently justified by a decades-old real estate dispute that's in the Israeli courts. And what a ridiculous reason to start a war and to bring about the deaths of so many people on both sides. I hope the Palestinian people rebel against Hamas, because what kind of leadership does Hamas give them if, for its own political reasons and Iran's, they subject the people of Gaza to the kind of suffering that they've gone through over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
The progressive extreme left still continues to target Israel. Look at Senator Bernie Sanders introducing a resolution to block a $735 million weapons sale to Israel. He doesn't want the U.S. selling Israel arms. He says we need to take a hard look at whether or not the sale is fueling the conflict. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki responded to this yesterday. Listen to Jen Psaki. Got to get your reaction.
Well, let me first say that the State Department oversees arms sales and any confirmation of those specific details or notifications that may have gone to Congress. So I would let them speak to that specific proposal you're asking about.
You also have members of the Squad introducing similar legislation in the House to stop any arms sales to Israel. And you've got Joe Biden sending money to the Palestinian Authority just a month before all of this firing of rockets started. So are we really all on the same page here?
We're not all on the same page. I would say that the ones who are furthest off the page, which is the page of fairness and American values and interests, are Senator Sanders and members of the Squad. They seem to be unable to distinguish between a Hamas, a group that has been put on the foreign terrorist list by the U.S. State Department, and an enemy of the United States and our ally Israel, and on the other side, Israel, one of our closest allies in the world and a democratic country. To jump on Israel, to threaten removal of arms sales to Israel in this kind of conflict is just outrageously unfair. I wish Jen Psaki had given a stronger and more direct response to that. I do think that President Biden handled this effectively inside the discussions with Israel. And his statement yesterday clearly said we're not going to deal with Hamas. How can you deal with Hamas? They want to destroy Israel. They'd like to destroy the U.S. if they could, and certainly Iran would like to do that. I hope this experience changes the attitude of people in the Biden administration who are in Vienna negotiating over a new nuclear agreement with Iran. You can't trust Iran. They're out to hurt us. They're out to hurt our allies. And in this case, I think they were out to try to break up the Abraham Accords between Israel and the Arab countries negotiated by the Trump administration, but they failed. I see no sign that the Emirates or Bahrain or Morocco or Sudan are pulling back from those agreements because they're in the interest of their people and the world, really. So overall, it's a conflict that was unnecessary, political. Hard to say whether there were any real winners or losers, but I believe Hamas lost, and I believe Israel, and I believe Iran lost, and I believe Israel and the West, us, the anti-terrorist forces, won a victory. And most of all, or one of the reasons that the Iron Dome worked.
It's certainly good news that you feel that the Abraham Accords are not getting jeopardized by this fighting. This is the first time we're seeing this kind of fighting since 2014. Those Abraham Accords were successful. Is there any chance we'll see more accords, more countries in the Middle East agreeing to normalize relations with Israel in this environment? Because that was certainly the path that the Trump administration was on.
Yeah, first let me say, I don't think we can overstate the importance and historic nature of the Abraham Accords. Big breakthroughs between Israel and the Arab world. So I hope that the Biden administration, after this experience with the treachery of Iran, will pull back from this focus on a new nuclear agreement with Iran. I think a much better path forward is for the Biden administration to try to build on the Abraham Accords and most significantly, of course, work with Saudi Arabia to see if we can bring Saudi Arabia into those accords. That would be a real game changer.
That would be tremendous.
Amen.
It certainly would. Yeah, it certainly would. All right, we'll be watching. The last comment we had from Joe Biden was that he wanted the U.S. back in the Iran deal. But, of course, maybe this changes things. We'll be watching and reporting it. Joe Lieberman, it's good to see you this morning, sir. Thank you.